The Judgment of the Dead. An examination of the papyri inscribed with the Theban recension of the Book of the Dead shows that they may be divided into two classes. Those in which the chapters of coming forth by day are preceded by introductory hymns to Ra and Osiris, and by a judgment scene, and 2. Those in which they are preceded by a simple vignette, in which the god Osiris is seen seated within a shrine. The oldest papyri of the 18th dynasty lack such introductory hymns and the judgment scene, which appear most often in the illuminated papyri of the last half of the 18th dynasty. They continue in the 19th dynasty, but frequently in a less full form. In the older recensions of the Book of the Dead, there is no attempt to describe the judgment pictorially, and although it is pretty certain that every Egyptian believed that he would be judged after death, there is no definite statement of the fact. It will be noticed that a section of chapter contains the words, "My heart, my mother, my heart, my mother, my heart, whereby I came into being, may not stand up to oppose me at my judgment. May there be no opposition to me in the presence of the sovereign princes of Osiris. May there be no parting of thee from me in the presence of him that keepeth the balance. Let there be joy of heart unto us at the weighing of words. Let not which is false be uttered against me before the great God, the Lord of Amenet." Here clearly we have suggested the idea of weighing the heart as the symbol of the seat of life and the source of good and evil actions, and as a matter of fact the vignette of the chapter, which first appears in the 18th dynasty, represents the deceased sitting in one pan of the scales and being weighed against his heart, which is placed in the other. It is not easy to say exactly what belief underlies this vignette, but it seems to indicate that the guardian of the scale weighed the body to see if it had carried out properly the heart's directions, and that if it had done so it would counterbalance exactly the heart, and the beam of the scales would be straight. This testing of the body or heart, or both, took place in the presence of Osiris on the day when words were weighed. In the papyrus of Ani, 4 small vignettes accompany the negative confession, which forms part of the chapter. And in one of these we see the heart of the deceased in one pan of the balance, and a feather, emblematic of right and truth, what is straight, in the other. The god Anubis is testing the tongue of the balance, and close by stands the monster Amet, or eater of the dead. Here we have a proof that in addition to the weighing of a man's body against his heart, the heart itself was weighed against right and truth, and that this stage of the judgment also took place in the presence of the god Osiris, the judge of the dead. In the 18th dynasty, if not earlier, the idea of the judgment took great hold upon the minds of the Egyptians, and it found expression in the large and elaborate vignette, which is prefixed to the copies of the chapters of Coming Forth by Day, which were made at this period. It is, however, impossible to say whether the large vignette is a development of that which accompanies the blank chapter, or whether each had a distinct origin. When once the idea of the great judgment scene had developed itself, it seems to have been felt that the deceased ought not to enter the hall of judgment without having first uttered words of prayer and praise to the great gods Ra and Osiris. To the former, as the greatest of the cosmic gods, and the latter as the judge and god of the dead, hence were composed the introductory hymns to Ra and Osiris, of which several examples are known. In the hymns to Ra, the deceased apostrophizes the glory and majesty of the one God, the creator of the world and all that therein is, who manifests himself to his creatures under the form of the sun, by whose heat and light men and women, beasts and feathered fowl, fish and creeping things, trees and herbs have their being. The darkness of night into which the sun disappeared when he set was personified as an enemy of the sun, and the daily victory of light over darkness was hymned with gladness by his worshippers. From one point of view, the Egyptian regarded the course of the sun as a type of his own life, and day symbolized life and night death. The conflict in which the sun engaged with the powers of darkness typified the struggle of the deceased with his enemies in the underworld, and man hoped that he would overcome them even as the sun vanquished all who opposed his course. In a fine hymn, the deceased says, O thou beautiful being, thou dost renew thyself in thy season in the form of the disk within thy mother, Hathor. Therefore in every place every heart swelleth with joy at thy rising eternally. O Ra, the divine man-child, the heir of eternity, self-begotten and self-born, prince of the Tuat, governor of the regions of Akret, thou God of life, thou Lord of love, all men live when thou shinest, thou art crowned King of the gods. Those who are in thy following sing unto thee with joy, and bow down their foreheads to the earth when they meet thee, thou Lord of heaven, thou Lord of earth, thou King of right and truth, thou Lord of eternity, thou Prince of everlastingness, thou Sovereign of all the gods, thou God of life, thou Creator of eternity, thou Maker of heaven, wherein thou art firmly established. The company of the gods rejoice at thy rising. The earth is glad when it beholdeth thy rays. The peoples that have been long dead come forth with cries of joy to see thy beauties daily. The serpent fiend hath fallen, his arms are hewn off, the knife hath cut asunder his joints. Ra liveth in unchanging and eternal law and order. Again, in another hymn, we read, Thou risest, thou risest, thou shinest, thou shinest, thou art crowned King of the gods. Thou art the Lord of heaven, thou art the Lord of earth, thou art the creator of beings celestial and of beings terrestrial. Thou art the one God who came into being in the beginning of time. Thou didst create the earth, thou didst fashion man, thou didst make the watery abyss of the sky, thou didst form Hapai, thou didst create the watery abyss, and thou didst give life to all that therein is. Thou hast knit together the mountains, thou hast made mankind and the beasts of the field to come into being. Thou hast made the heavens and the earth. Thou art crowned Prince of heaven. Thou art the one dowered with all sovereignty, who comest forth from the sky. Ra is victorious. O thou divine youth, thou heir of everlastingness, thou self-begotten one, O thou who didst give thyself birth, O one, mighty one, of myriad forms and aspects, King of the world, Prince of Anu, Lord of eternity and ruler of everlastingness, the company of the gods rejoice when thou risest and when thou sailest across the sky. Thou art unknown, and no tongue is worthy to declare thy likeness. Only thou thyself canst do this. Thou hearest with thine ears, and thou seest with thine eyes. Millions of years have gone over the world. I cannot tell the number of those through which thou hast passed. From these passages, it is clear that the Egyptians believed that the God who was typified by the sun was eternal, immortal, and unknown, invisible, that he created himself and the world, and the beings and things in it. He was also one and alone, and there was none like unto him, for the gods of whom he was king only possessed certain of his attributes and characteristics. It has been denied by some that his oneness or unity is the same as the unity of God Almighty. Though I believe there is no good reason for this view, but whether it be not, it is perfectly certain that when the Egyptians declared that their God was one, they meant exactly what the Hebrews meant when they declared that Jehovah was one, and what the Arabs meant and still mean when they cry out that Allah is one. At all events, the one God of the Egyptians possessed all the essential attributes of the Christian's God. In the hymns to Osiris, the deceased enumerates the various titles of the god and mentions his most ancient shrines. Osiris is declared to be the son of Seb, the earth god, and of Nut, the sky goddess, and as prince of gods and men to have received the crook and the whip and the dignity of his divine fathers. He is the King of eternity and Lord of everlastingness, and his existence is for millions of years. In his name, Osiris, he is most terrible, and he endureth for ever in his name, Unnefer. Though possessing the attribute of eternal, which is ascribed to Ra, he is not self-begotten and self-born, like that god. Ra has no offspring in the human sense of the word, but Osiris begot a son, after his death, according to one legend, who succeeded to his father's throne upon earth and avenged him on Set, his murderer. From Ra the deceased asks only that he may behold him at dawn each day. But from Osiris he asks that his Ka, or double, may have splendor in heaven, and might upon earth, and triumph in the underworld. And he adds, may I sail down to Tatu, Mendes, or Busisaurus, like a living soul, and up to Abtu, like a Bimu, bird. May I go in and come out without repulse at the pylons of the lords of the underworld. May there be given unto me loaves of bread in the house of coolness, and offerings of food in Anu, and a homestead forever in Sekhet Aru, with wheat and barley, therefore. Judging by the arrangement of the papyrus of Ani, the papyrus of Hu Nefer, the papyrus of Quina, and other documents of the period, it seems pretty clear that the introductory hymns and the vignette of the judgment scene together formed a special section of the fine papyri of the Theban recension. The vignette of the judgment scene varies in detail greatly in the various papyri, though the essential parts of it are always preserved. The fullest form known of it is given in the papyrus of Ani, and may be thus described. In one portion of a chamber in the domain of Osiris, which we may assume to be the hall of the double Mot, or right and truth, a balance is set wherein the heart of the deceased is to be weighed. The beam of the balance is suspended upon a projection from the standard made in the form of the feather, which symbolizes right and truth. Upon the beam of the balance sits the dog-headed ape, which was associated with Thoth, the scribe of the gods. The weighing of the heart is carried out in the presence of the company of the gods, which is here represented by the following members of it. 1. Ra Haru Kuhuti, or Ra Harmakis, the great god. Within his boat, this boat was called the Bark of Millions of Years, and there sat in it along with Ra the gods Khepera and Tim, his own forms in the morning and evening, respectively. 2. Temu, or Tim, the form of Ra at eventide. He was the head of the company of gods at Heliopolis, and is always represented in human form. This fact indicates that already in the earliest times known to us he had gone through all the various stages through which gods pass and had assumed a final and definite form. Shu, 3. The son of Ra and Hathor, who lifted up the goddess Nut, or the sky, from the embrace of Seb, the earth god. He typified the light. 4. Tefnut, the twin sister of Shu. She is depicted as a woman with the head of a lioness. She typified moisture. 5. Seb, the earth god, the son of Shu, husband of Nut, and by her father of Osiris and Isis, Set and Nephthys. 6. Nut, the female counterpart of Nu, or the watery mass from which all the gods were evolved, and upon which the bark of millions of years floated. 7. Isis, the sister wife of Osiris and mother of Horus, son of Isis. She probably typified the dawn. 8. Nephthys, daughter of Seb and Nut, sister of Osiris and Isis, and the sister wife of Set. She is also said to be the mother of Anubis by Osiris. She probably typified eventide or twilight. 9. Horus, the sun god, who is to be distinguished from Horus, the son of Isis. He is represented in human form, but with the head of a hawk. The hawk was the symbol of Horus, and the worship of that bird is probably the oldest in Egypt. 10. Hathor, the goddess of that portion of the sky wherein Horus, the sun god, rose and set. Hu and Sa, two gods who had their places in the boat of the sun at creation. It will be noticed that several of the gods, Nu, Ta, Khenumu, Khepera, Set, Anpu, Apuat, Amsu, Hapi, and several goddesses, Miat, Nit, Sekhet, Bask, Serk, Uchit, are not here represented. The explanation of this fact is that only the gods and the goddesses of the funeral company of Osiris are considered to be interested in the judgment of the dead. On one side of the scale we see the god Anubis testing the tongue of the balance, and behind him stand Thoth, the scribe of the gods, writing down the result of the weighing, and the triformed beast, Amit, the eater of the dead, who is waiting to devour the heart of Ani, should it be found light in the balance. On the other side of the balance are Ani's luck or destiny, an object called Meshkin, which has been described as a cubit with human head. It either typifies the embryo or has some connection with the birth of Ani. His soul in the form of a human-headed bird perched upon a pylon, and behind these are the goddesses Renet and Meskhnet, who presided over Ani's birth chamber and rearing. Behind these stand Ani himself and his wife, Thuthu, with heads reverently bent. Ani is here depicted in human form, and wearing garments and ornaments similar to those which he wore upon earth. It is quite clear that the body which he has in this hall of judgment cannot be the body with which he had been endowed upon earth, and we are probably to understand that it is his spiritual body, wearing the white robes of the beatified dead in the world beyond the grave, which we see. He is perfect in all his members, which are endowed with the strength and power that belong to those who have risen in a spiritual or glorified body from the dead. though he stands at the entrance of the hall, and the weighing of the heart has not yet taken place. The artist depicted him in the form in which it was always assumed. The just would appear before Osiris, the heart having been placed in one pan of the scales, and the feathers, symbolic of truth, in the other. Ani utters the words which form a later chapter of the Book of the Dead, wherein he prays that there may be no parting of his heart from him in the presence of the guardian of the balance. This done, Anubis tests the tongue of the balance, and finds that the beam is exactly straight, and that the heart balances the feather exactly. The dog-headed ape skated on the stand, and reports this to Thoth, who, standing with his writing reed in hand, is ready to note the result and to declare it to the gods. It is interesting to observe that the heart was only required to balance the feather, and not to outweigh it, a fact which indicates that the pious Egyptian was supposed to be able to satisfy the demands and requirements of the law, and that he took his stand in the judgment and hoped for acquittal by virtue of the good deeds which he had done in the body. The good Thoth next addressed the company of the gods as follows: Hear ye this judgment. The heart of Osiris hath in very truth been weighed, and his soul hath stood as a witness for him. It hath been found true by trial in the great balance. There hath not been found any wickedness in him. He hath not wasted the offerings in the temples. He hath not done harm by his deeds. And he spread no evil reports about men while he was upon earth. To this speech the gods reply: That which cometh forth from thy mouth, O Thoth, dwelling in Khemennu, is confirmed. Osiris, the scribe of Ani, is holy and righteous. He hath not sinned, neither hath he done evil against us. The devourer Amenet shall not be allowed to prevail over him, and meat offerings and entrance into the presence of the god Osiris shall be granted unto him, together with a homestead for ever in Sekhet Hetepu, as unto the followers of Horus. The gods confirmed the report of Thoth, and Ani, having been found just, is led into the presence of Osiris by Horus, the son of Isis. The words "found just" represent in a measure the words Ma Karu, or Mat Karu, which are always added after the name of the deceased in funeral texts. There is no example of their application to a living person. Much has been written about them, and many renderings have been suggested for them, such as true of voice, justified, triumphant, victorious. They actually mean right and word, karu, and seem to be meant to express the belief on the part of the writer that the deceased has satisfactorily passed the ordeal of judgment, and that he has attained to the state in which his commands, whatever they may be, will be carried out duly and effectually. While Horus is leading Ani into the presence of his father, he addresses Osiris, saying, I have come unto thee, O Anefer, and I have brought the Osiris, Ani, unto thee. His heart hath been found righteous, coming forth from the balance, and it hath not sinned against any god or goddess. Thoth hath weighed it according to the decree uttered unto him by the company of the gods, and it is very true and righteous. Grant unto him cakes and ale, and let him enter into the presence of Osiris, into thy presence, and may he be like unto the followers of Horus forever. In the last division of the judgment scene, we see Ani kneeling by a table of offerings placed before the shrine of the god Osiris, to whom he says, O Lord of Amenet, I am in thy presence. There is no sin in me. I have not lied wittingly, nor have I done aught with a false heart. Grant that I may be like unto those favored ones who are round about thee, and that I may be an Osiris, greatly favored of the beautiful God, and beloved of the Lord of the world. The royal scribe indeed, who loveth him, Ani, triumphant before the god Osiris. It will be noticed that Ani now has his hair whitened, and that he wears upon his head the object which is called a cone, the signification which is unknown. He has a length penetrated to the throne of Osiris, the Lord of eternity, as the words written above him read, and Ani's petition to the god is that he may become an Osiris, that is to say, a being endowed with a spiritual body which can never again see death or suffer corruption. The answer of Osiris is not given in the papyrus, nor is it, as far as I have seen, in any papyrus where a similar petition is made. But just as it is always assumed that the heart of the deceased will always balance the feather of the law, or right and truth, so is it also assumed that the petition of the deceased will always be favorably received, and that he will henceforth be free to go about in the God's domains without let or hindrance, and to participate in all the occupations of the great God himself. Thus the judgment scene ends, and this section of the papyrus in which it is found is followed by the chapters of coming forth by day. The question naturally arises here: when did the judgment in the hall of Osiris take place? To this no definite answer can be given, for the reason that no text supplies the information needed. There are no grounds, so far as I see, for assuming that the Egyptians believed in a great general day of judgment, when all the world shall be judged, and the wicked shall be punished, and the righteous shall be rewarded, or for thinking, as some have done, that the mummified bodies were laid in the tomb to await a general resurrection. On the contrary, all the evidence seems to point to the conclusion that the judgment of each individual was thought to take place immediately after death. And if this was the belief, it follows the punishment or reward was allotted to the dead at once. The evil heart, or the heart which had failed to balance the feather symbolic of the law, was given to the monster Ammit to devour. Thus, punishment consisted of instant annihilation, unless we imagine that the destruction of the heart was extended over an indefinite period. The difficulty of the subject is further complicated when we come to consider the use and object of the funeral ceremonies and prayers. If at his death the soul of a man passed to immediate judgment, what could the ceremonies and prayers of the priests avail it? We know that the embalming of a body in the best and most expensive way occupied a period varying from 70 to about 100 days, and that several more days were necessary before the body was coffined and laid with the proper ceremonies in the tomb. If the prayers which the priests recited and the ceremonies which they performed over it at the grave were absolutely necessary for the future well-being of its soul, and if the soul could not begin its beatified existence until such prayers had been said and such ceremonies had been performed, it is difficult to understand why such a lengthy process of embalmment was resorted to, for during the period which elapsed between death and burial the soul must have tarried in some intermediate place. In the absence of exact knowledge, we can only assume that certain prayers were said for the benefit of the deceased immediately after death, and that such prayers assured his acquittal in the hall of Osiris and procured for him entrance into the abode of the blessed. This done, the embalmment of the body might be carried out at the convenience of all concerned, and the elaborate and formal ceremonies connected with the sepulture of the great would follow in due course. The beliefs which are connected with the judgment of the dead are so numerous and so conflicting, and belong to so many various periods of development of religious thought in Egypt, that it is impossible to harmonize them. As new texts are discovered, the difficulties will probably disappear one by one. and the future laborers and Egyptologists will clear up many obscure passages, which, up to the present, have been misunderstood. The Elysian Fields, or Heaven. At a very early period in their history, the Egyptians believed in the existence of a place wherein the blessed dead led a life of happiness, the characteristics of which must resemble those of the life which he had led upon earth. These characteristics are so similar that it is hard to believe that in the early times the one life was not held to be a mere continuation of the other. At all events, the delights and pleasures of this world were believed to be forthcoming in the next, and a life there in a state of happiness which depended absolutely upon material things was contemplated. Such ideas date from the time when the Egyptians were in a semi-savage state, and the preservation of them is probably due to their extreme conservatism in all matters connected with religion. The remarkable point about them is their persistence, for they occur in texts which belong to periods when it was impossible for the Egyptians to have attached any serious importance to them, and some of the coarsest ideas are in places mingled with the expression of lofty spiritual conceptions. In a passage in the text of Unas, it is said of this king, Unas hath come to his pools which are on both sides of the stream of the goddess Mehet-Tuert, and to the place of verdant offerings, and to the fields which are on the horizon. He hath made his fields on both sides of the horizon to be verdant. He hath brought the crystal to the great eye which is in the field. He hath taken his seat in the horizon. He riseth like Sebek, the son of Neith. He eateth with his mouth. He voideth water. He enjoyeth the pleasures of love. And he is the begetter who carrieth away women from their husbands whenever it pleaseth him so to do. And in the text of Teta, we read, Hail, Osiris Teta! Horus hath granted that Thoth shall bring thine enemy unto thee. He hath placed thee behind him that he may not harm thee, and that thou mayest make thy seat upon him, and that when coming forth thou mayest sit upon him, so that he may not be able to force intercourse upon thee. These passages give a very clear idea of the state of Egyptian morals when they were written, and they indicate the indignities to which those vanquished in war, both male and female, were exposed at the hands of the conquerors. The texts of the early period, as will be seen from the extracts given further on, give a large amount of information about the pleasures of the deceased in the world beyond the grave. But no attempt to illustrate the employments of the blessed dead is given until the 18th dynasty, when the vignette to the later chapter of the Book of the Dead was inserted in papyri. Here we have an idea given of the conception which the Egyptian formed of the place wherein he was to dwell after death. A homestead, or farm, or country, intersected with canals, is at once his paradise, and the home of the blessed dead, and the abode of the god of his city. This place is called Sekhet Aru, or Field of Reeds, and this name seems to indicate that the Egyptian placed his paradise in the north of Egypt, probably in some part of the delta or in the islands of the sea still further north. Certain it is that the deceased prays several times, that the sweet breath of the north wind may be given unto him, and those who have experienced the discomfort of a south wind on a hot day in Egypt will sympathize with him. The Field of Reeds, however, was but a portion of the district called Sekhet Hetep, or Sekhet Hetep, or Fields of Peace, over which there presided a number of gods, And here the deceased led a life which suggests that the idea of the whole place originated with a nation of agriculturists. In the colored vignette, which faces the later chapter, the scribe Ani is seen being introduced to the gods of Sekhet Hetep by Thoth, who accompanies him to smooth his way and to do for him all that he did for Osiris. Next, we see him sailing in a boat laden with offerings which he is bearing to the hawk god. Lower down we see him reaping wheat and driving the oxen which tread out the corn, and beyond that he is kneeling before two heaps of grain, one red and one white. In the next division he is plowing the hand of Sekhet Anru, or Sekhet Aru, by the side of a stream of vast length and unknown breadth, which contains neither worm nor fish. In the fourth division is the abode of the god Osiris, and here are the places where dwell those who are nourished upon divine food, and the spiritual bodies of the dead. In one section of this division, the deceased placed the god of his city, so that even in the respect of religious observances his life might be as perfect as it was upon earth. His wishes in the matter of the future life are well expressed in the following prayer. Let me be rewarded with thy fields, O god Hetep. That which is thy wish shalt thou do, O Lord of the winds. May I become a Khu therein. May I eat therein. May I drink therein. May I plow therein. May I reap therein. May I fight therein. May I make love therein. May my words be mighty therein. May I never be in a state of servitude therein. But may I have authority therein. Elsewhere, in this same chapter, the deceased addresses the gods of the various lakes and sections of the Elysian fields, and he states that he has bathed in the holy lake, that all uncleanliness has departed from him, and that he has arrayed himself in the apparel of Ra. In his new life, even amusements are provided, but they are the amusements of earth. For he snares feathered fowl, and sails about in his boat, catching worms and serpents. A remarkable passage in the text of Unas describes the deceased king as a soul in the form of a god who devours his fathers and mothers, and mankind generally, and gods. He hurts and entraps the gods in the plains of the next world, and having tied them securely, he slays and disembowels them. The choice portions of their bodies he boils and consumes at his meals at dawn, eventide, and midnight. The remainder he burns to heat the cauldrons. He eats the hearts carefully, so that he may absorb the vital powers of the gods, and by eating their portions also he acquires all the attributes of the god. Inasmuch he has eaten the bodies of the gods, he becomes indeed a god, and since they possessed the attribute of everlasting life and could not die again, the king becomes straightway possessed of their attributes. Here again we have a trace of a savage custom, namely that of cutting out a portion of some intestine of a foe and eating it in order to acquire his mental and physical powers. Such a custom must have disappeared from Egypt long before the monuments known to us were made, and it is hard to understand the retention of such a notion in a text filled with sublime thoughts and ideas. In the texts of all periods we read often that the deceased lives with Ra, that he stands among the company of the gods, and that he is one like unto the divine beings who dwell with them. But little is told us concerning his intercourse with those whom he has known upon earth. And if it were not for some reason 2 or 3 passages in the Theban recension of the Book of the Dead, we should be obliged to assume that the power to recognize the friends of earth in the next world was not enjoyed by the deceased, but that he really possessed this power, at least so far as his parents were concerned, we learn from a later chapter, where the deceased, addressing a pool or lake situated in the first section of the Elysian Fields, says, O Quinniquet, I have entered into thee, and I have seen the Osiris, my father, and I have identified my mother. A delight, however, which he brackets with the pleasures of making love and of catching worms and serpents. In the papyrus of the priestess Anahi, we actually see the deceased lady in converse with two figures, one of whom is probably her father and the other certainly her mother, for above the head of the latter are written the words, her mother, followed by the name. A supplementary proof of this is afforded by a passage in the later chapter, where the deceased says, The gods shall say unto me, What manner of food wouldest thou have given unto thee? And I reply, Let me eat my food under the sycamore tree of my lady, the goddess Hathor, and let my times be among the divine beings who have alighted thereon. Let me have the power to order my own fields in Tatu, and my own growing crops in Anu. Let me live upon bread made of white barley, and let my ale be made from red grain. And may the persons of my father and my mother be given unto me as guardians of my door, and for the ordering of my territory. The same idea is also expressed in the later chapter. Thus, the deceased hoped to have in the next world of abundance of the material comforts which he enjoyed in this world, and to meet again his own God, and his father and mother. As we see him frequently accompanied by his wife in several vignettes to other chapters, we may assume that he would meet her again along with the children whom she bore him. It will be noticed that little is said throughout the Book of the Dead about the spiritual occupations of the blessed dead, and we are told nothing of the choirs of angels who hymn the deity everlastingly in the religious works of later Western nations. The dead who attained to everlasting life became in every respect like the divine inhabitants of heaven, and they ate the same meat, and drank the same drink, and wore the same apparel, and lived as they lived. No classification of angels is mentioned, and grades of them like cherubim and sephirim, thrones, powers, dominions, etc., such as are found in the celestial hierarchy of Semitic nations, are unknown. A celestial city constructed on the model described in the Apocalypse is also unknown. We have seen that the Elysian fields much resembled the flat, fertile lands intersected by large canals and streams of running water such as must always have existed, and may still be seen in certain parts of the delta. Of the distance to be traversed by the dead before they were reached, nothing whatever is said. As the Egyptian made his future world a counterpart of the Egypt which he knew and loved, and gave to it heavenly counterparts of all the sacred cities thereof, he must have conceived the existence of a waterway like the Nile, which tributaries and branches whereon he might sail and perform his journeys. According to some text, the abode of the dead was away beyond Egypt to the north, but according to others it may be either above or below the earth. The oldest tradition of all placed it above the earth, and the sky was the large, flat, or vaulted iron surface, which formed its floor. This iron surface was supported upon 4 pillars, one at each of the cardinal points, and its edges were some height above the earth. To reach this iron ceiling of the earth and floor of heaven, a ladder was thought to be necessary, as we may see from the following passage, in which Pepi, the king, says, Homage to thee, O ladder of the god, homage to thee, O ladder of Set, set thyself up, O ladder of the god, set thyself up. O ladder of Set, set thyself up. O ladder of Horus, whereby Osiris appeared in heaven when he wrought protection for Ra. For it is thy son Pepi, and this Pepi is Horus, and thou hast given birth to this Pepi, even as thou hast given birth to the god who is the lord of the ladder. Thou hast given unto him the ladder of the god, and thou hast given unto him the ladder of Set, whereby this Pepi hath appeared in heaven, when he wrought protection for Ra. And in another place we read, Pepi goeth to his mother Nut Nut there in heaven, and he entereth therein in his name of ladder. Elsewhere we are told that Pepi is holy. He hath received his staff, he is provided with his throne, and he hath taken his seat in the boat of the double company of the gods. Ra acteth as his pilot in his journey to the west, and he stablisheth his throne for him at the head of the lords of Cause, and he hath inscribed his name at the head of the living. The Behekah, which is in the waters, openeth its doors to this Pepi, and the iron which formeth the ceiling of the heavens unbolteth its gates to this Pepi. Pepi passeth through them, having his partner's skin upon him, and his whip in his hand. A later belief placed the abode of the departed away to the west or northwest of Egypt, and the souls of the dead made their way thither through a gap in the mountains on the western bank of the Nile near Abydos. A still later belief made out that the abode of the departed was a long, mountainous, narrow valley with a river running along it. Starting from the east, it made its way to the north, and then taking a circular direction, it came back to the east. In this valley there lived all manner or fearful monsters and beasts, and here was the country through which the sun passed during the 12 hours of night. It is impossible to reconcile all the conflicting statements concerning the abode of the dead, and the Egyptians themselves held different views about it at different periods. The following extracts, however, from the pyramid texts, will show the reader what views were held by them concerning the home of the blessed dead in the next world, and concerning their treatment therein by the gods. Behold, Unas cometh, beholdeth. Unas cometh, behold, Unas cometh forth. And if Unas cometh not of his own accord, thy message having come to him shall bring him. Unas maketh his way to his abode, and the cow goddess of the great lake boweth down before him. None shall ever take away his food from the great boat, and he shall not be repulsed at the white house of the great ones by the region Meskat on the border of the sky. Behold, Unas hath arrived at the height of heaven, and he seeth his body in the Semeket boat, and Unas laboureth therein. He hath satisfied the Uraeus in the Mot boat, and hath washed it. And the Hymenet beings have testified concerning him. The winds and storms of heaven have strengthened him, and they introduce him to Ra. O make the two horizons of heaven to embrace Ra, so that he may go forth towards the horizon. O make the two horizons of heaven to embrace Haru Ketu, Harmachis, so that he may go forth towards the horizon with Ra. O make the two horizons of heaven to embrace Unas, so that he may go forth towards the horizon with Ra. O make the two horizons of heaven to embrace Unas, so that he may go forth towards the horizon along with Haru, Ka, Huti, and Ra. This Unas is happily united to his Ka. His panther skin and his grain bag are upon him. His whip is in his hand. His scepter is in his grasp. They bring to him the four Khus who dwell in the hair of Horus, who stand on the east side of heaven, and are glorious by reason of their scepters, and they declare the fair name of Unas to Ra, and they make him to escape from Nehebe Ka'au, and the soul of this Unas liveth in the north of the Sekhet Aru, and he saileth about in the lake of Ka, whilst Unas saileth towards the east side of the horizon, whilst he saileth towards the east side of heaven. His sister, the star Septet, giveth him birth in the Tuat. Thou hast thy heart, Osiris. Thou hast thy legs, Osiris. Thou hast thine arms, Osiris. And Unas himself hath his heart, and Unas himself hath his legs, and Unas himself hath his arms. He hath walked with his legs toward heaven. He hath come forth with them into heaven, and his mouth declareth itself by the great dew. Unas flieth like a feathered fowl. He hovereth and alighteth like a beetle. He flieth like a feathered fowl, and alighteth like a beetle upon the empty seat which is in thy boat, O Ra. Kindle the fire in order that the flame may rise up, and throw incense upon it in order that the smell of incense may rise up. Thy scent cometh towards Unas, incense. Thy scent cometh towards Unas, incense. Your scent cometh towards this Unas, and the scent of Unas cometh towards you. O ye gods, Unas is with you, and you are with Unas. O ye gods, Unas liveth with you, and you live with Unas. O ye gods, love ye Unas. O ye gods, love him. O ye gods, come, O part of Ra, come, O matter which cometh forth from the thighs of Horus, come, O ye who have come forth, come, O ye who have come forth, come, O ye who are feeble, come, O ye who are feeble, come, Shu, come, Shu, come, Shu, for Unas cometh forth upon the thighs of Isis, for Unas is feeble, O ye gods, upon the thighs of Nephthys, and he hath been ejected from the womb. He who setteth up the ladder for Osiris is Ra, and he who setteth up the ladder is Horus, for his father Osiris when he goeth forth to his soul. Ra is one side and Horus is on the other, and Unas is between them, being indeed the god of holy dwelling places coming forth from the sanctuary. Unas standeth up and is Horus. Unas sitteth down and is Set. Ra receiveth him, soul in heaven and body in earth. Those who are happy and who see, Unas. Those who are content and who contemplate, Unas. Thou are the gods. If this god come forth towards heaven, Unas also shall come forth towards heaven, and he shall have his souls upon him, and his books shall be upon both sides of him, and his inscribed amulets shall be upon his feet, and the god Seb shall do for him what hath been done for himself. The divine souls of the city of Pe, and the divine souls of the city of Nakhen shall come unto him, along with the gods of heaven and the gods of the earth, and they shall lift Unas up upon their hands. Come forth then, Unas, to heaven, and enter therein in thy name of ladder. Heaven hath been given unto Unas, and earth hath been given unto him. This is the decree which Tim hath issued to Seb, and the domains of Horus, and the domains of Set, and the Sekhet Aru, with their harvests, adore thee in thy name of Khonsu Sept. Tita hath not hunger like Shu. Tita hath not thirst like Tefnut for Hapi, Tuamaftef, Quebes Nefu, and Amset, the four children of Horus. Destroy the hunger which is in the belly of Tita, and this thirst which is upon the lips of Tita. The hunger of Tita is with Shu, the thirst of Tita is with Tefnut. Tita liveth upon the daily bread which cometh in its season. He liveth upon that upon which Shu liveth, and he eateth that which Shu eateth. Filth is an abomination to Tita, and he rejecteth filthy water. Ye have taken Tita to you, O ye gods, and he eateth what ye eat. He drinketh that which ye drink. He liveth upon that upon which ye live. He sitteth down as ye sit. He is mighty with the might which is yours. He saileth about even as ye sail about. The house of Tita is a net in the Sekut Aru. He hath streams of running water in Sekahet Heteb. The offerings of Tita are with you, O ye gods. The water of Tita is as wine, even as is water to Ra. Tita revolveth in heaven like Ra, and he goeth round about the sky like Thoth. The two doors of heaven are opened for thee, O Tita, for thou hast raised up thy head for thy bones, and thou hast raised up thy bones for thy head. Thou hast opened the two doors of heaven. Thou hast drawn back the great bolts. Thou hast removed the seal of the great door. And with a face like that of a jackal, and a body like that of a fierce lion, thou hast taken thy seat upon thy throne. And thou criest to the Khus, Come to me, come to me. Come to Horus, who hath avenged his father, for it is Tita who will lead thee in. Thou puttest thy hand upon the earth, and with thine arm thou doest battle in the great domain. And thou revolvest there among the Khus, and thou standest up like Osiris. Hail, Osiris, Tita! Horus hath come to embrace thee with his arms, and he hath made Thoth to drive away for thee and defeat the followers of Set, and he hath taken them captive on thy behalf, and he hath repulsed the heart of Set, for he is stronger than Set, and now thou art come forth before him, and Seb hath watched thy journey, and he hath set thee in thy place, and hath led unto thee thy two sisters, Isis and Nephthys. Horus hath united thee unto the gods, and they shew themselves as brothers unto thee in thy name sent. And they do not repulse thee in thy name Eteret. He hath granted that the gods shall guard thee, and Seb hath set his sandal upon the head of thine enemy. Thou hast driven back the enemy. Thy son Horus hath smitten him, and he hath torn out his eye, and given it unto thee, in order that thou mayest be strong thereby, and thou mayest gain the mastery thereby among the Khus. Horus hath permitted thee to hack thine enemy in pieces with this eye. He smiteth down thy enemy with it. For Horus is stronger than he is, and he passeth judgment upon his father who is in thee, in thy name. He whose father is stronger than heaven. The goddess Nut hath made thee to be a god unto Set in thy name of God, and thy mother Nut hath spread out her two arms over thee in her name of Coverer of heaven. Horus hath smitten Set, and he hath cast him down beneath thee, and Set beareth thee up, and is mighty one beneath thee, inasmuch as he is the great one of the earth, which he ordereth. In thy name of Ta Teshur, Ta, Horus hath granted that Set shall be judged in his heart and in his house with thee. And he hath granted that thou shalt smite him with thy hand whatsoever he doeth battle with thee. Hail, Osiris Tita! Horus hath avenged thee, and he hath caused his Ka, which is in thee, to make thee to rest in thy name of Ka kept. Hail, Osiris Tita! Seb hath given to thee thy two eyes, that thou mayest rest in the two eyes of this great one, Osiris, who is in thee. Seb hath made them to be given unto thee by Horus, that thou mayest rest upon them, that Isis and Nephthys may see thee, and that they may find thee. Horus hath made an offering unto thee. Horus hath granted that Isis and Nephthys may protect thee, and they have handed thee over to Horus, that he may rest upon thee. And Horus hath glorified thee in thy name of Horizon, where Ra sheweth himself in thy arms, in thy name of Dweller in the palace. Thou hast made thy hand to be like a wall behind him, to give stability to his bones and to magnify his heart. The right side of Tita belongeth to Horus, who smiteth the Tcharu in his two scepters, and Nephthys in the two eyes. The left side of Tita belongeth to Set, who judgeth Tita. Hail, bolt which closeth the door of Nut! It is Tita, Shu, who cometh forth from Tem. Hail, Nu! Grant that the door may be opened to Tita, for he cometh as a divine soul. Nu hath adjudged Tita to Tim, and Pekah hath adjudged Tita to Shu. He granteth that the two doors of heaven shall be opened, and he hath decreed that Tita shall be among men without name. But behold, thou hast grasped Tita by the hand, and thou hast drawn him to heaven, so that he may never die upon earth among men. O father of Tita, O father of Tita in the darkness, O father of Tita, Tim in the darkness, thou hast brought Tita near thee, because he hath performed the shooting forth of flame, and the making protection, even as the four goddesses, Isis, Nephthys, Neith, and Serket Hetu, did for the father of Nu on the day of protecting the throne. O road of Horus, extend thy sail for Tita, give thy hand to Tita. Hail, Ra, come, for Tita passeth to the shore, even as thy followers, the Unka, who love thee, have passed thee. Stretch out thy hand to the west, stretch out thy hand to Tita, stretch out thy hand to the east, stretch out thy hand to Tita, even as thou hast done to the place where is thy eldest son. This Tita is Osiris, and he hath motion. This Tita hath detestation of the earth, and he will not enter into Seb. This Tita hath broken forever his sleep in his dwelling, which is upon earth. The bones of Tita flourish, and obstacles to him are destroyed, for he is purified with the eye of Horus. The obstacles which he encountered are beaten down by the two Chitchet's goddesses, Isis and Nephthys, and Tita hath cast to the earth his seed in Kes. The sister of this Tita, the lady of the city of Pe, bewaileth him, and the two nurses who created Osiris also create him. Tita is in heaven. This Tita is in heaven like Shu and Ra. This Tita perisheth not, and nothing in him perisheth. Nay, this Tita is the governor of his leg of the firstborn gods. This Tita sitteth not as the guardian of God. The offerings of this Tita are for Horus and Ra, and the sepulchre offerings of this Tita are in Nu. This is Tita, and he goeth with Ra. This Tita cometh with Ra. He hath embraced his habitations. He giveth opposition and destroyeth it. He gathereth the cause and delivereth them. This Tita watcheth and lieth down, and he hath destroyed the two Anuti in Innu. The foot of this Tita departeth not, and the heart of this Tita is not repulsed. Rise up, Tita, and lift up thy legs, O most mighty one, to go and seat thyself among the gods, and do thou that which Osiris hath done in the house of the prince which is in Anu. Thou hast received thy spiritual body, Sa, and none shall set bounds to thy foot in heaven, and none shall repulse thee on earth. The Kus, who are the children of Nut, whom Nephthys hath suckled, have gathered together to thee. Thou standest up upon thy strength, and thou doest that which thou must do for thy Ku. In the presence of all the Kus, thou goest to the city of Pe. Thou art glorified and returnest. Thou goest to the city of Nakhen. Thou art glorified and returnest. Thou doest that which Osiris did, and behold, this most mighty Ku Tita is upon his throne and standeth up, being provided with all things, like the goddess Samur. None shall repulse thee in any place wherein thou wouldest enter, and none shall set bounds to thy foot concerning any place wherein it pleaseth thee to be. Hail, Osiris, Tita, stand up, rise up, for thy mother Nut hath brought thee forth, and Seb hath placed thy mouth for thee. The great company of the gods have defended thee, and they have set thine enemy beneath thee. Thou hast borne that which is greater than thou art through them in thy name, Atef Mahur, which is greater than thou art in thy name of Ta'abtu. Thy two sisters Isis and Nephthys come to thee, and they make thee to pass by Quemrit in thy name of Quemur, and Nebu Chakarit in thy name of Uachmu. Thy sister Isis came to thee with thy members, and thou wert united unto her, and thou didst give her seed, and thou didst provide her with offspring like Septet. Hail, hail, rise up, Tita. Thou hast received thy head, thou hast embraced thy bones, thou hast gathered together thy flesh and blood, and thou goest round about the earth seeking for food. Thou hast received thy bread which decayeth never, and thy beer which goeth bad never. Thou standest at the gates which drive back the Rekhit. Ken Maturf cometh forth unto thee. He graspeth thee by the hand, and he leadeth thee to heaven, to thy father Seb, who was glad when he meeteth thee. He giveth thee his two hands. He maketh himself a brother unto thee. He feedeth thee. He setteth thee among the Khus who never perish, and the beings whose habitations are hidden make adoration unto thee. Rise up, then, O thou Tita, who never diest. Of the exudations which have fallen from the eye of Horus upon the branches of the olive tree of the two Horus gods who are in the temples, O mighty Lord of divine food in Anu. Thou givest bread to Tita, and thou givest beer to Tita. Thou makest Tita to flourish. Thou makest his offerings to flourish, and thou makest his to flourish. If Tita suffereth hunger, the two lion gods suffer hunger. If Tita suffereth thirst, thy mother Nekhap suffereth thirst. Tita maketh broad the throne with Seb. Tita lifteth on high the vault of heaven with Ra. Tita walketh round about in Sekhet Hetep. Tita is the eye of Ra, who lieth down and is born each day. Homage to thee, O Ra, in thy beauty, in thy splendorous, in thy seats, and in thy plenitude. Thou hast brought the milk of Isis to Tita, and the water of the celestial stream of Nephthys, and power to journey over the great green sea, and life, and strength, and health, and the pleasures of love, and bread, and beer, and apparel, and everything whereon Tita liveth, and power to hearken to the gods who speak throughout the day, and to rest with them during the night, and to partake of the offerings which are made unto them. Tita looketh upon thee when thou goest forth in the form of Thoth, leading the boat of Ra to the fields which are in Asu, and when thou goest in among those who bear him up. Homage to thee, O Tita, on this thy day whereon thou standest up before Ra, who cometh forth from the east, and who clotheth thee in thy spiritual body, Sa, among the souls. Anubis, governor of Amintai, giveth thee thousands of cakes, thousands of vessels of beer, thousands of vases of oil, thousands of oxen, thousands of changes of apparel, and thousands of bulls. For thee is the Smen goose slain, for thee is the Therp goose shot with an arrow. Horus hath destroyed all the evil which is in Tita by his 4 children. And Set forgetteth what he wrought against Tita by means of his 8 fiends, and those whose habitations are hidden throw open the doors to him. Rise thou, go to the earth, and seek the things which have issued from thee. Rise thou up, and pass thou on opposite to the Khus. Thy 2 wings are like those of a hawk, and thy hair is like the rays of a star. Cast ye nothing evil upon Tita, neither do ye carry off the heart of Tita, nor steal away the place wherein it abideth. Hail, thou Pepi, thou journeyest on. Thou art glorious. Thou hast gotten power like the god who is on his throne, that is, Osiris. Thou hast thy soul within the body. Thou hast thy power behind thee. Thy urette crown is upon thy head. Thy headdress is upon thy shoulders. Thy face is in front of thee, and those who acclaim thee are upon both sides of thee. The followers of the god are following after thee, and the spiritual bodies, Sahu, of the god are upon both sides of thee. And they make the god to come, and the god cometh, and Pepi cometh upon the throne of Osiris. The Khu which dwelleth in the city of Netat cometh. The form which dwelleth in the name of Teni, Isis speaketh with thee, and Nephthys holdeth converse with thee, and the Khus come unto thee, paying homage unto thee, and they bow down even to the ground at thy feet by reason of thy book, O Pepi. In the cities of Sa thou comest forth before thy mother Nut, and she strengtheneth thine arm, and giveth unto thee a path in the horizon to the place where Ra is. The doors of heaven are opened for thee, the gates of Qebu are unbolted for thee. Thou findest Ra, who guardeth thee, and he strengtheneth for thee thy hand, and he guideth thee into the northern and southern heavens. And he setteth thee upon the throne of Osiris. Hail, thou Pepi! The eye of Horus cometh unto thee, and holdeth converse with thee. Thy soul, which dwelleth with the gods, cometh unto thee, and thy form Sekhem, which dwelleth among the Khus, cometh unto thee. In the same way that the son avenged his father, in the same way that Horus avenged Osiris, even so shall Horus avenge Pepi upon his enemies. And thou shalt stand there, O Pepi, avenged and armed, and provided with the forms of Osiris, who is upon the throne of the governor of Amenti. And thou shalt have thy being as he hath among the indestructible Khus. And thy soul shall stand up upon thy throne provided with thy attributes, and it shall have its being as thou hast thine in the presence of him who is the governor of the living, according to the decree of Ra, the great god, who shall plough the wheat and the barley, and give it unto thee as a gift therein. Hail, thou Pepi! It is Ra who hath given unto thee all life and strength for ever, along with thy speech and thy body. And thou hast receivest the attributes of the god, and thou hast become great therein before the gods, who dwell on the lake. Hail, thou Pepi! Thy soul standeth among the gods and among the Khus, and the fear of thee constraineth their hearts. Hail, Pepi! Inasmuch as thou hast set thyself upon thy throne of the governor of the living, thy book it is which worketh upon their hearts, and thy name liveth upon earth, and groweth old upon earth, and thou shalt neither perish nor decay for ever and ever. Rise thou up, O Pepi! Stand thou up, O thou of great strength, and take thy seat at the head of the gods, and do thou the things which Osiris did in the house of the prince in Anu, Heliopolis. Thou hast received thy spiritual body, Sa, and thy foot shall not be restrained in heaven, and thou shalt not be repulsed upon earth. And behold, the Khus, who are the children of Nut, to whom Nephthys hath given suck, and have gathered themselves together unto thee, and thou standest up on thy strength, and thou doest that which it is thine to do in the presence of thy Khu, for all the Khus. Thou journeyest to the city of Pe, and thou doest what must be done therein, and thou returnest. Thou goest to the city of Nekehen, and thou doest what must be done therein, and thou returnest. And thou doest which Osiris did, and thou art upon his throne. And this Khu, the one most mighty, standeth up armed like Smaru, and wherever thou goest, none shall repulse thee, and none shall set a limit to thy feet wherever it pleaseth thee to go. Hail, Osiris Pepi! Arise, stand up, for thy mother's Nut hath given birth unto thee, and Seb hath arranged thy mouth for thee, and the great company of the gods have avenged thee, and they have put thine enemies beneath thee. Thou hast carried that which is greater than thyself through them, in thy name of Atef Mehur, and thou hast netted that which is greater than thyself through them in thy name of Tatini. Thy two sisters, Isis and Nephthys, come unto thee, and they make thee to traverse Quimet Urit in thy name of Quimur, and Nebuacharaat in thy name of Uachur. And verily, thou art Orshint in Shinur, and Tabinshint in Tabin Peshre ha Nebu, and Shint-At in Shin-Asekmu. And Isis and Nephthys have protected thee in the city of Saut from their master, who is in thee in thy name of Master of Saut, and from their God who is in thee thy name of God. They adore thee, so that thou mayest not depart from them in thy name of Morning Star. And they bring offerings before thee, so that thou mayest not suffer pain in thy name of Cheturu. Thy sister Isis hath come unto thee, rejoicing in thy love, and thou hast had intercourse with her, and hast made her to conceive, and she is heavy with septet. And Haru Sept cometh forth from thee as Haru, the dweller in Septet, and thou doest what must be done in him in thy name of Ku, dweller in Tichintru, and avengeth thee in his name of Horus, the son who avengeth his father. Hail, Osiris Pepi, thou hast offered thy libation, and thou hast made thy libation before Horus in thy name of comer forth from Queb. Thou hast offered thine incense which maketh thee divine, and thou mother Nut hath made thee to be as a god to thine enemy in thy name of God. Thou hast offered the emanations which come forth from thee, and Horus hath granted that the gods whithersoever thou goest, thou hast offered the emanations which come forth from thee, and Horus granted that thou shalt judge his children wheresoever thou takest them, and he decreeth for thee the renewals of youth in thy name of water of youth. Horus hath strength then, and judgeth his father in thee in his name of Haru Ba. Hail, Pepi! Thy journeying and the journeying of thy mothers along with thee are the journeying of Horus when he journeyeth forth, and the journeying of his mothers who journey with him. Those who are with him urge him on, and they lead him to the east. Hail, thou Pepi! Thine arms are Uapu, and thy face is Apuat. Hail, thou Pepi! A royal oblation! Thou seatest thyself in the regions of Horus, and thou goest about through the regions of Set. Thou seatest thyself upon the iron throne, and thou art judge at the head of the great company of the gods who dwell in Anu. Hail, thou Pepi, Kintanmerti, or Matai, guardeth thee while thou guardest thy calves. Hail, Pepi! Ar guardeth thee against the Kus. Hail, Pepi! Know thou that thou shalt receive for thine holy oblation which thou offerest each day thousands of cakes, thousands of vessels of ale, thousands of oxen, thousands of feathered fowl, thousands of sweet things, and thousands of linen garments. Hail, Pepi! Thou hast thy water, thou hast thine abundance, thou hast thy purifying gums, which are brought to thee before thy brother Nekhen. O Osiris Pepi, thou risest as king of the south and of the north by reason of thy power over the gods and their cause. And behold, do thou, O Nut, spread thyself over thy son Osiris, Pepi, and protect him, and deliver him from Set. Come, O Nut, and protect thy son, for thou must protect this mighty one, O Nut. Cast thyself over thy son Osiris Pepi, and protect him, O great wife of this mighty one who is among thy children. The god Seb hath come unto thee, O Nut, and thou didst possess strength, and thou didst gain power in the womb of thy mother Tefnut, when as yet thou wert not born. O do thou unite life and strength unto Pepi, so that he may not die. Thou didst make strong thy heart, and didst spring forth from the womb of thy mother in the name of Nut. O thou daughter, who didst gain the mastery over thy mother, and didst make herself to rise as queen of the north, protect thou this Pepi, who is within thy womb, that he may not die. For me, O Nut, to whom thou hast given birth, proclaim the name of Osiris Pepi, through Horus, beloved of the two lands, Pepi, the king of the north and of the south, Pepi, the lord of the diadems of the vulture and of the Uranus, beloved from the womb, Pepi, the triple hawk of gold, Pepi, the flesh and bone of Seb, by whom he is beloved. Pepi, the friend of all the gods, Pepi, the giver of all life and stability and power and health and joy of heart, like the sun, living forever. Thy water is thine, thy flood is thine, that is to say, the emanations which come forth from the god, the excretions which come forth from Osiris. Thy hands are washed, thine ears are opened, and this form, Sekhem, doeth what hath to be done for his son. Thou art washed, and thy Ka is washed, and thy Ka hath sat down, and he eateth bread with thee for ever and ever, inasmuch as thou hast gone and hast taken thy seat. O Osiris, thy mouth is open before thee. Acclamations are upon thy hand. Thy nostrils are gratified with the odor of the Uraeus. Thy legs walk to keep the feast. Thy teeth are, and thy fingers reckon up the lakes over which thou passest like the great bull of Anu, and of the nome of Uechet, to go to the fields of Ra, which he loveth. Rise up, then, O Pepi, and die not. Hail, Pepi, arise, stand up. Thou art pure, thy Ka is pure, thy soul is pure, thy Sekhem is pure, thy mother cometh to thee, thy mother Nut, the mighty creaturess cometh to thee, and she maketh thee pure, O Pepi. She fashioneth thee, O Pepi, and thou hast motion, O Pepi. Thou art pure, thy Ka is pure, thy Sekhem is pure among the Kas, and thy soul is pure among the gods, O Pepi. Hail, Pepi, thy bones have been presented unto thee. Thou hast received thy head before Seb, and he hath destroyed the evil which belongeth to thee, O Pepi, before Tem. Thou hast opened the gates of heaven. Thou hast unbolted the doors of Qebhu, which repulse the beings of understanding. Rekhit and Ment acclaimeth thee. Mankind, Henmnet, greeteth thee, and the stars which never fail stand up before thee. Thy winds are incense, and thy north wind is a flame, for thou art he who hath become mighty in the name Teni. And thou art the star that existeth by thyself, and which appeareth in the castern half of the eastern half of heaven, which never groweth old, and to which Horus of the city of Tot hath given his body. Hail, thou established one, thou most exalted one, among the stars which never fail, thou shalt never perish. The heavens speak, and the earth quaketh by reason of thy book, O Osiris, when thou makest thine appearance. Hail, ye cows of Amutenen, who have suckled Amutenen, go ye round about behind him, and weep before him, and acclaim him by word and deed, for Pepi, who goeth forth, goeth into heaven among his brethren the gods. Pepi is pure. Pepi hath taken his staff. He hath provided himself with his throne, and he hath taken his seat in the boat of the great and little companies of the gods. Ra transporteth Pepi to the west, and he establisheth the throne of Pepi above the lords of Kaz, and he writeth down Pepi at the head of the living. The Pekah which dwelleth in Queba is opened unto this Pepi, and the iron which formeth the ceiling of the sky is opened unto this Pepi, and he passeth through onwards. His panther skin is upon him, and his sceptre and flail are in his hand. And Pepi is sound with his flesh. He is happy with his name. He liveth with his Ka. And he, Ra, destroyeth the evil which is upon both sides of Pepi. He driveth away the evil which followeth him, even as Matu, who dwelleth in Sekhem, driveth away the evil which is upon both sides of him, and doeth away with the evil which followeth him. Let Ra be embraced in the two horizons of heaven, so that he may go forth therein before Harokuti, Harmachis. Let Harokuti be embraced in the two horizons of heaven, so that he may go forth before Ra. Let Pepi be embraced in the two horizons of heaven, so that he himself may go forth before Ra and before Harukuti. O enter into the verdant stream of the lake of Ka. O fill with water the fields of Aru, and let Pepi set sail for the eastern half of heaven, towards that place where the gods are brought forth, wherein Pepi himself may be borne along with them as Herukuti. For Pepi is triumphant, and Pepi acclaimeth, and the Ka of Pepi acclaimeth the gods. And they invoke Pepi, and they bring him these four gods who make their ways over the tresses of Horus, and who stand with their scepters in the eastern half of heaven. And they declare to Ra the excellent name of Pepi, and they exalt the excellent name of Pepi before Nehebu Ka'ah. For Pepi is triumphant, and Pepi acclaimeth, and his Ka acclaimeth the gods. The sister of Pepi is Septet, Sothis, and the birth of Pepi is the morning star. And it is he who is under the body of heaven before Ra. Pepi is triumphant, and he acclaimeth, and his Ka acclaimeth the gods. Pepi knoweth his mother, and he is not unmindful of her, the white crown, who begetteth and who dwelleth in the city of Nekheb. She is the lady of the great house, the lady of the land of union, the lady of the hidden land, the lady of the field of the boat, the lady of the lake which bringeth offerings. She decreeth the red crown, and she is the lady of the domains of the city of Tep. O mother of this Pepi, cry out and present the breast to him and suckle him. O thou her son, Pepi, O father, the breast hath been presented unto thee, and it hath suckled thee. O father, thou livest. O father, thou art little. O father, thou comest forth into heaven, like the hawks having feathers, like unto those of Greece. O father, it is the god Hech Hech who bringeth these things to Pepi. O Samaru, thou bull of offerings, remove thy horn, and let this Pepi pass by. Inasmuch as Pepi passeth through, inasmuch as he goeth to heaven in full life and power, this Pepi seeth his father, this Pepi seeth Ra. This Pepi is indeed God, and the envoy, or angel of God. Pepi cometh, and he is pure in Sekhet Aru. This Pepi goeth down to the field of Kinset, and the followers of Horus purify him. They guard carefully this Pepi, and they recite for him the chapter of Ma'u, and they also recite for him the chapter of coming forth in life and in power. This Pepi cometh forth to heaven in life and in power in the boat of Ra. He piloteth for Ra the gods thereof, and they rejoice in this Pepi as they rejoice when Ra goeth forth from the eastern part of the sky in peace. In peace. This Pepi cometh forth to the eastern part of heaven, where the gods are born, and where he himself is born as Herukuti. Pepi is triumphant, and the Ka of Pepi is triumphant. Pepi maketh adoration, and the Ka of Pepi maketh adoration. The sister of this Pepi is Septet. He is born as the morning star. He goeth with you, and he journeyeth with you in Sekhet Aru, and he draweth nigh, as do you, unto field of turquoise. He eateth of that of which ye eat. He liveth upon that upon which ye live. He putteth on apparel, like unto the apparel which ye put on. He anointeth himself with the sweet smelling substances with which ye anoint yourselves. He receiveth his water with you at the lake of Mina, of this Pepi, and he drinketh it out of the vessels of the Khus. Ra hath purified heaven, and Horeth hath purified the earth, and every god who is with them purifieth this Pepi, for Pepi adoreth the god. O thou path of Pepi, which leadeth to the great halls, testify ye concerning Pepi before these two great gods, for Pepi is Unka, the son of Ra, who beareth the heavens upon his shoulders, and who guideth the earth. Hail, ye gods, let Pepi take his seat among you. Hail, ye stars, bear ye Pepi upon your shoulders as ye bear Ra. Follow ye this Pepi as ye follow Apuat, and love ye him as ye love. This Pepi hath come to thee, O Lord of heaven. This Pepi hath come to thee, Osiris. He strengtheneth thy face. He arrayeth thee in the garment of a god. He hath purified thee in Ata. He hath destroyed the members of thine enemies. He hath hacked them in pieces, and he hath changed himself into the being who is among those who have been hacked in pieces. For Horus, the son to whom thou hast given birth, hath not placed this Pepi among the dead, but among the divine gods. Their water is the water of this Pepi, their bread is the bread of this Pepi, and their purifications are the purifications of this Pepi, and that which Horus hath done for Osiris he hath also done for this Pepi. Heaven uttereth words, the earth quaketh, Seb advanceth, the two divine momes part asunder. The ceremony of ploughing the earth is ended, and the offering is set before Pepi, the living one, the stablished one. He goeth forth from heaven, and goeth about over the iron sky in life and stability. He saileth over it, and overthroweth in his course the fortifications of Shu. He goeth forth to heaven upon his wings like a mighty duck, which hath broken its bonds. And Anubis leadeth the procession, which Horus made in Abydos, when Osiris was interred. He goeth forth into heaven among the stars which never perish or diminish. His sister is Septet, and his guide, the morning star, leadeth him to Sekhet Hetep, and he seateth himself there upon his iron throne, which hath lions' heads and feet in the form of the hoofs of the bull Samma-Ur. He standeth up there in his vacant place between the two great gods, and his sceptre, which is in the form of a papyrus, he hath with him. He stretcheth out his hand over the Hemenet beings, and the gods come to him, bending their backs in homage. The two great gods watch one on each side of him, and they find Pepi, like the great and little companies of the gods, acting as the judge of words, being the prince over every prince. They bow down before Pepi, and they make offerings unto him, as unto the great and little companies of the gods. Hail, Osiris! It is not Pepi who entreateth to see thee in the form in which thou art, who entreateth to see thee in the form in which thou art. It is thy son who entreateth to see thee in the form in which thou art. It is Horus who entreateth to see thee in the form in which thou art. Pepi hath gone down into the great green sea, and thou, O great green sea, hast drooped thy head and bent thy back, and the children of Nut, who come down upon thee, putting their garlands upon their heads and round their necks, offer the flowers which are the crowns of the pools of Sekhet Hetep to Isis, the great lady, and the goddess who beareth the pike in Akhet bringeth them and spreadeth them out as a gift before her son Horus, whom she suckleth at the breast, so that he may traverse the earth in his two white sandals, and may go to his father Osiris. Pepi hath opened out his way among the birds, he hath travelled with the lords of food, he hath gone to the great lake which in Sekhet Hetep, on which the great gods alight, and these great imperishable beings give to him the tree of life, whereon they themselves do live, that he also may eat and live thereon. Take then this Pepi with thee to this great country which hath become subject unto thee by the will of the gods, wherein thou eatest during the night, even until dawn, and where thou becomest master of divine food, in such wise that Pepi may eat of that which thou eatest, that he may drink of that which thou drinkest. The following prayer, which is found in shortened forms in Greco-Roman and Roman periods, occurs in the text of Pepi II. Hail, great company of the gods who are in Anu. Grant that Pepi Nefer Ka Ra may flourish, and grant that his pyramid, his everlasting building, may flourish, even as the name of Tamu, the governor of the great company of the gods, flourisheth. If the name of Shu, the lord of the upper shrine in Anu, flourisheth, Pepi Nefer Ka Ra shall flourish, and this is his pyramid, his everlasting building, shall flourish. And if the name of Tefnut, the lady of the lower shrine in Anu, is stablished, the name of this Pepi Nefer Ka Ra shall be stablished, and this pyramid shall be stablished forever. And if the name of Seb, the soul of the earth, flourisheth, the name of Pepi Nefer Ka Ra shall flourisheth, and this is his pyramid, and this his pyramid shall flourish, and his everlasting building shall flourish. And if the name of Nut flourisheth in Het Shinteth in Anu, the name of this Pepi Nefer Ka Ra shall flourish, and this is his pyramid shall flourish, and this his building shall flourish forever. If the name of Osiris flourisheth in the nome Teni, the name of this Pepi Nefer Ka Ra shall flourisheth, and this his pyramid shall flourish, and this his building shall flourish forever. If the name of Osiris, governor of Amentai, flourisheth, the name of this Pepi Nefer Ka Ra shall flourish, and this his pyramid shall flourish, and this his building shall flourish forever. If the name of Set in Nabut Ombos flourisheth, the name of Pepi Nefer Ka Ra shall flourish, and this his pyramid shall flourish, and this his building shall flourish forever. And if the name of Horus Bahutet flourisheth, the name of this Pepi Nefer Ka Ra shall flourish, and this his pyramid shall flourish, and this his building shall flourish forever. And if the name of Ra flourisheth in the horizon, the name of this Pepi Nefer Ka Ra shall flourish, and this his building shall flourish forever. And if the name of Kent Mertai in Sekhem is established, the name of this Pepi Nefer Ka Ra shall flourish, and this his pyramid shall flourish, and this his building shall flourish forever. And if the name of Uatchat, who dwelleth in Top, flourisheth, the name of this Pepi Nefer Ka Ra shall flourish, and this his pyramid shall flourish, and this his building shall flourish forever.